Stand by to launch FanStream Sports.
3, 2, 1. Let's start.
Hello, sports fans. Welcome to FanStream Sports. Nothing but pure sports. This is the JP Show.
JP, it is so good to hear you back on the air.
Stand by. Now, here's JP.
Balls last year in college football. It's amazing.
Trask for the end zone.
And he catches that one.
Touchdown Bucs! Jared Stearns from Kyle Trask. Well, Rondé Barber was bragging about how many footballs he caught.
That's the way you do it right there. That's professional broadcasting as we start this another JP Peterson show from our new digs at CP Communications in St. Petersburg. Thank you very much for joining us. We got lots to get to this morning, including that, the Buccaneers preseason game number 1, a loss to the Dolphins, but winning or losing doesn't matter. It's how the guys played, right? And we'll go over that in detail. J.C. Allen from the Pewter Report's going to join us at 10:30. Doug Wechter's going to join us at 10:45 to talk about the near perfecto by Drew Rasmussen yesterday. Boy, was he really, really good. We'll get into that. Also, we'll do a little college football with you. Patrick Burnham, who covers the Seminoles for the Osceola, will join us. And, yes, we'll have Scott Carter on this week to talk some Gator football. And USF just made some news, breaking news. Jerry Bohannon, well, we've kind of been telling you that for a couple of weeks. Jerry Bohannon is going to be their number 1 quarterback heading into the season. Timmy McClain will be the backup. Hopefully he'll definitely, I'm sure, get some meaningful playing time during those games. So we'll get into all that as we go through the JP Peterson show. And we're also going to talk a little bit about Tom Brady, some interesting things we heard over the weekend that we'll get to. So we got a great show for you. So sit back, relax, enjoy the next couple hours. We're going to bring you all the sound from Kevin Cash, Rasmussen. We'll hear all the good stuff from Todd Bowles yesterday as he went over the preseason game. So it's all here for you. Nick Geddes from Outsider.com joining me here this morning in our new digs, Mr. Producer. I even forgot to turn on the professional lights here today. We had to do that.
I know you're taking me back to my college production days. I have to remember to put on these lights here now.
We got lots more bells and whistles now.
Yes.
So, yeah.
But we upgraded. I don't think you've ever looked better here on this stream.
Oh, well, thank you
very
much.
As good as you could ever look. So
this is possible. Smoke and mirrors and a little bit of good lighting. Coach, we're going to say as awesome as Rasmussen was yesterday, we're going to start with the Bucs. It's football season, so we're going to hit the Bucs hard here today. Just overall thoughts on the game, first and foremost, is Kyle Trask. We talked about this on Friday about how Kyle Trask has not had a great training camp. The joint practices, I didn't think it went well for him with the Miami Dolphins, but he's a gamer. And this has been his MO his entire career. He plays better in the games. One of our listeners pointed that out on Friday. And I was like, yeah, you remember, I remember hearing that about him at Florida. He never had great practices, but when he went out in the games, the guy was money. And it's probably why he's been a backup most of his career in high school and college and everywhere. And when he gets an opportunity in the game, he shines. And I thought he played fantastically well. Now, listen, I'm not here to say that Kyle Trask is the future for the Buccaneers. I still think his delivery is a little too deliberate. He's got to speed it up a little bit. You can do that. You can do that as you work through and become a better professional. I think a lot of quarterbacks have done that. But his ball placement in the times where he needed it, that ball to Jared Stearns was absolutely perfect, and a great catch by Stearns as well. That kid can flat out play. Triple Crown winner last year at Western Kentucky, most receptions, touchdowns, yardage in college football. He's a little guy, but dadgummit, he can catch.
I thought Kyle Trask, he checked every box that he needed to in that game. A lot of people are pointing to what happened at the end of the second half, and I guess we have to start with that because I think that was the beginning of the Kyle Trask kind of story that night. Was that 2-minute situation. I mean, the Bucs were up by almost 2 scores, I believe. They were up by 2 scores. Last 2 minutes of the game, he gets the fluky interception. I thought it was very fluky.
That's a fluky interception, but it was also a learning point right there. You just
throw it away. You dirt it away, you throw it away, whatever. The second one, the pocket just collapsed on him. And again, that's not on him, but where it is on him a little bit is he was collapsed right away, and I don't think he really felt it soon enough. And, you see that with young quarterbacks a lot, especially a young quarterback like him who hasn't really played a lot of football in a long time. He just did not feel it right away, and he gets hit from behind. They pick it up, take it for 6. Regardless, you can't give away 14 points in the final 2 minutes of a quarter when you're up by 2 scores. It can't happen. But knowing that, they come out of halftime, and I thought the second half he played was spectacular. And then at the end, he renewed himself. He did his job, get your team in field goal position with a chance to win the game.
Yeah, in a 3rd and 21 situation, had a holding call on that drive, and it can 4th and 9 that he completed another great throw. I think that was to Stearns as well, or it may have been to Tompkins, but a great ball placement over the linebacker and right underneath. I mean, it was perfect ball placement. It was very, very difficult throw to get it in there, but he did it and set up the field goal, which Borregales missed. Had his worst kick of the preseason, which you're there to make game-winning long field goals. We put you in that position, and you didn't do it. I'm not saying that's a death knell for him, but that is not good. That was not good for him because that's exactly the situation you want to see him in. You put him in that situation, and that was a mental miss. That was the worst hit of his entire preseason. That's a mental miss, and that's what when it comes down to kicking, that's what you worry about. All these guys can kick it through the uprights. He's got a deep leg. I get it. But if you can't make those 40-yarders or 45-yarders at the end of games, that's it. You cannot have, and that's from 40, 30, whatever that would have missed. That was a cold shank.
Yeah, it was
like one
shank.
of my wedges on 18 with the pressure on. That was a cold shank. You can't have that.
Yeah, Rondé said it immediately after he missed it. That was the worst kick he's had this entire offseason, his entire time here as a Buck, really. That was the worst kick, and it comes in the worst time. I hate it for him because he hit the 55-yarder earlier, which was the second longest kick I think made this weekend of any kicker outside of Evan McPherson.
Way different than a game winner.
Way different than a game winner, and if he makes that kick there, I mean, you talk about putting a statement on this kicking competition and saying, hey, Ryan, I'm here.
Yeah,
I'm here.
Yeah.
This job's not safe for you, but now Ryan's got a little bit of a cushion. It sounds like he's going to get kicking duties for this Tennessee game, so I'm a big Borregales guy. I don't think the Bucs really want to give him away, to be honest, but he didn't help himself that night.
No, and if you let him go, somebody's going to pick him up. So that's going to be a tough call for Jason Light on that one for sure. I zeroed in on Robert Hainsey as much as I possibly could. When you don't have, the film and a lot of different replays, it's hard to really look at it. But I kind of watched him at the beginning of every play. And I thought he held his own. I didn't see any major misses. I didn't see him getting physically beaten. I know this wasn't the number one Dolphin defense for the most part, most of the game, but I thought he was really, really crisp. No bad snaps. I mean, he did his job. I mean, that's something I want to see. I can't say the same thing about Stinney. There was some tackle for loss, but I couldn't really tell whose fault that was. It might have been Leverett's fault, really, from the way his body language was. It might have been his fault. So the two guards, I don't think, distinguished themselves.
The two tackles did not play well either in that game. Fred Johnson did not play well.
He gave up the sack fumble.
Brandon Walton did not play well. There was just not a lot of great offensive line. I know the Bucs only gave up 2 sacks in that game, but I felt that doesn't really indicate how they played. I don't think they played that well. But to your point, Robert Hainsey, I didn't see many mistakes from him.
And I saw a couple of dominant blocks.
Yeah.
Where he turned guys in the hole and slammed them down.
And
that was
Keyshawn
impressive.
Vaughn touchdown. That was him leading the way for Keyshawn Vaughn as well, which you like to see.
Yep.
So it was a good outing for Robert Hainsey. And again, that's just why I'm telling you. And you saw Ryan Jensen walking and everything, obviously with a limp, but he's walking regardless without a crutch. This is Robert Hainsey's job right now.
Yeah. And I think J.C. Treader is still out there. But the Browns lost their starting center this weekend.
Harris, yes.
Yeah, Nick Harris. So, again, as the weeks go on, he's not going to be out there. But I think, this is what the Bucs are trying to do. And I think that's one of the reasons they're probably being a little bit hazy on Ryan's health situation, because they don't want to tell everybody that they're in the market for a center. So I think that's probably why they're being a little bit hazy about what his future is. They should know by now. I mean, the swelling should be down by now.
Well, he did. We'll play the audio here in a second, but Todd did give an update on that.
Yeah. So, but either way, I thought Hainsey looked good. I still think in this situation, to go into this season with nobody really of any consequence behind him with experience, I still think you got to go out and get an experienced center. But that's just me. Other thoughts on the game? I mentioned Devin Tompkins. Watching this kid in practice, watching him in the game, I just love the way he plays. He goes and gets the ball. Stearns is the same way. The Geiger kid also. I mean, we got 3 little receivers, or 4 with Jalen Darden, who I think is really going to make the team. That, by the way, would go right to this. That throw from Gabbert to Jalen Darden, that was a big time throw.
That was a bullet.
That was a big time throw and a big time touchdown, a big time. I mean, those guys were on the same page in that particular situation. and Gabbert was 5 for 5. And I just keep saying about Blaine Gabbert, I'm completely confident that this guy can get the job done if needed. And I don't think there's any, even as well as Trask played, it's a compliment to Gabbert to see how he has an absolute mastery of this offense. He still has a big arm. He's an experienced player. I love him.
I watched a lot of backup quarterbacks this week.
Yes, exactly.
I watched a lot of bad quarterbacking this week.
Yep.
And Blaine Gabbert, I'll stick to what I said last week. I think he's a top 5 backup in this league.
Absolutely.
And he out there, I know it was against the Miami Dolphins second offense, but the fact that he was perfect, he was literally perfect. I don't even know what his quarterback rating was, but I'm going to assume it was perfect.
Yeah.
Against that team. That's what you should do. That just shows you how
5
good.
for 5, 55 yards.
It just shows you how good Blaine Gabbert looked there. And you talked on some of the receivers. I don't want to bury the lead here, but Tyler Johnson.
Tyler Johnson
might have been the player of the game.
Yeah.
Tyler Johnson. I mean, I feel like we haven't talked about him a lot this offseason. I thought he was one of the odd men out. I kept talking about Scotty Miller. I think he's a lock for this team. Scotty Miller didn't do anything the other night. I mean, he didn't have a
he's
single
done enough in practice.
He's done enough in practice,
he
but
really
I'm just saying in the game right there.
And he has so much experience
I get
in
that,
the NFL.
but
He's ahead of Tyler.
I don't know.
No question.
Tyler, I mean, 6 catches, 73 yards. I mean, he was explosive. He was showing some separation off the line, things that we didn't see last year. I mean, he was obviously Gabbert's go-to target when he was in there, and then obviously when Trask got in there, he was his go-to target. He was impressive. He looks like he knows that he has to really improve to make this team. And I think at least he's put himself in that conversation. It's not going to be a gimme now that he's not going to make this team anymore.
I tell you what, there are teams all over the league picking up the phone and calling the Bucs for all the receivers that they have.
Oh yeah.
I mean, these you're going to see. I think you're going to see Stearns in the NFL for a long time. I think Tompkins has a future in this league. I know they're small guys, but look, in this league, it's a passing league. There's a place for them, as you've seen, through the years, the really good ones. There's a place for these guys. A lot of open space out there in the NFL these days. The middle of the field's wide open. These little fast guys can get her done.
I will say they do seem better more than I remember. And of course, maybe success recently dictates this, but they seem better than the Freddie Martinos.
Yes.
And the Dante Dyes.
Yes.
And
wow.
The Kalen Clays and the Robert Hurons.
And
the Kenny Bells. Can I keep going?
Keep going. I'm just impressed by the knowledge.
They seem like they're better than those
guys. Were here for like a week and a half, and you know them.
Yeah.
Wow.
Those are all small kind of profile receivers. I will say these guys showed me more in one game than those guys did in the years they were here combined. So
Rachaad White continues to, even though I don't think he got as many touches as we had liked, because I think they know what they got in Rachaad White. We'll see more of him this week, I think, in the Tennessee game, but he looks fantastic.
He's the best runner on this team.
Yeah.
Including Leonard Fournette, by the way.
Really?
He's the best runner on this team.
No, I'm not going there. I'm not going there. And Gio was nice before he got an ankle injury.
Yeah.
Not serious, but again, guy seems to always get leg injuries.
Your boy Keyshawn went too great.
I thought he had a couple of moments. There wasn't a whole lot of room to run.
10 for 19.
When you look at the numbers, not great. But he had when you look at the pass catching, and a couple of the runs, a couple of times he had no chance to get going. He hit 4 yards in the backfield.
Honestly, if you look at every single running back except for Rachaad White, and his numbers are kind of inflated because he had the 12-yard run.
Right.
2.8 yards per carry as a team.
Not great.
And the offensive line, like I said, just was not great.
But there were moments that I thought that, guys show flashes. To me, stats in the preseason are meaningless. They really are. I mean, I look at the individual plays. Did you make guys miss in situations? Did you make a great contested catch? I mean, on the sheet, that's one catch for 9 yards, right? Not impressive. When you watch the catches that Tyler Johnson made, shaking a tackle and then getting some yak, it's more impressive than what the numbers show. So I watched the tape and make it by that. The numbers don't mean a whole lot to me. But I thought there's guys that you just eyeball and they look the part. And like, Rondé said during the broadcast when he finally got to Le'Veon Bell, yes, Le'Veon Bell is the guy that he reminds me of most. He said Eric Dickerson.
He said Eric Dickerson.
Yeah,
he said Alvin Kamara, and everybody was like,
I like Kamara. I think that's a nice comparison. They both are a little upright. They catch the ball really well. I think they can do a lot of different things. But yeah, Rachaad White looks the part.
No, I think he's spot on. The Le'Veon Bell comparison, to me, that's exactly what he is. And if he is for this team, then I'm telling you, he's going to be the starter sooner before later.
A guy I keep talking about that showed a little bit was Anthony Nelson. We haven't talked a lot about defense. Anthony Nelson got a sack, a tackle for loss, there's a reason why I think the Bucs didn't go out and get an edge rusher, because I think they really believe Anthony Nelson. I think he's a guy that, given the opportunity, he had 5 sacks and played 30% of the snaps last year. 5 sacks in 30% of the snaps. That's tremendous production. I mean, if he was playing 90%, that's 15. Do the math. I mean, that's big time sack numbers, right? So I'm telling you, this guy, he's got long arms. He's powerful. He's a grown ass man. I'm telling you, if he gets the opportunity this year, he's going to put up some numbers. He's going to help him. Yeah, and we have to play the audio too of Todd Bowles, because he was asked about Anthony Nelson yesterday during his press conference, and the answer he gave about Anthony Nelson is very, very telling of how much this team trusts him. And to your point, why they're not exactly going out there trying to get an edge rusher, because they believe this guy could probably start. Yeah, I think he can in this league. And I think, honestly, if Joe Tryon wasn't a first round pick, essentially, I think Anthony Nelson would be starting. I really do. That's fair. I think, and that's no knock on Tryon. I just think they're both really, really good players. And I think they're probably going to split time 50-50 for the most part, if they're smart, because both of them, keeping that guy fresh on that end of the line constantly, that for an offensive tackle, especially early in the season when it's hot, and you look up every other series and you see a different number out there, that gets in your head. When you're tired, you're sweating. This guy comes off the bench and hasn't played in maybe 10, 15 real minutes of time, and it's fresh legs. That makes a difference. Yeah. I'm telling you. Any other guys that caught your eye? A couple things, and guys who caught my eye almost in the wrong way. I'll start with Zion McCollum, who I think has been one of the camp darlings here early on. He got beat on that double move for the touchdown. A couple other plays where I think he was getting turned around. Didn't seem like he really knew his assignment. Yep. I'm not. That was a welcome to the NFL. It was a welcome to the NFL. I mean, he came from Sam Houston State. He's Sam Houston State, who the only other player in the NFL that I could think of that came from there was Josh McCown. So I can't. I mean, Sam Houston State to the NFL. It's difficult for a guy like that. I'm not worried about it, but definitely I had my eyes on him last night because of everything that we've seen and heard from him in camp. And that was that. The other thing that I'll say, if the Bucs are going to make another addition to this roster. And again, I'm talking about the backup depth roles because the Bucs are loaded at every starting position. But I'm almost looking to that linebacker spot, honestly, on this team. The inside linebacker? The Bucs don't carry a lot of linebackers. Yeah. I think they only have 6 linebackers on the entire roster. Yeah. Inside linebackers. And obviously you have Levante David and Devin White. We have to see Devin White have a lot of improvement in his pass coverage ability this year. Levante David is getting older. Yeah, he had the injury last year. I know he's fully healthy this year, but you just never know. I don't know how confident I feel about Grant Stewart being the guy coming in after that. I think KJ Britt is the guy. KJ Britt's the guy. He plays both. I'm curious if that's something the Bucs could be monitoring, because I'm not crazy about that position. I know Stewart got hurt right away in that game. Yeah. But that was another thing that jumped out to me, is how thin they really are behind the top 2. I think if they add, and they will add some people, I think that experienced inside linebacker, the Kevin Minter role from last year. Yeah, I think they're looking for that. They'll be looking for that. Absolutely. I think that's a smart pickup. And there'll be guys like that. Guys that are in their 30s, inside linebackers that have played a lot in this league that have slowed down. What happens is they get injured, for a couple of years in a row. And then, if they're healthy, they can help you. And if they're just playing spot duty, they can help you. So there'll be plenty of guys they can go find with that. And the way the Bucs pro scouts, Shelton Quarles and that group go about their business, they'll find somebody really, really good. All right, let's get to the bowl sound from yesterday. After watching the tape, we'll get a little bit more, I think, perspective on what the coaches are thinking. So let's head over to Todd Bowles. You can set up the sound bites. We can go anywhere you want. Oh, I want to just get to the Brady thing real quick because I teased it. So over the weekend, I was listening to the Ira Kaufman podcast this morning, and they brought up the elbow issue. I think we talked a little bit about this last week about I've been watching. I watch Brady relentlessly in practice when I'm there, especially in the drills. And I've talked about this year. He never takes a rep with anyone who's not a starter. And I'll be just flat honest with you. I don't remember whether he did or did not in the past, but the fact that it stood out to me this year means that it probably didn't, So and what I'm talking about is they'll go through these passing drills in the early parts of practice where it's nonstop. They'll have 2 quarterbacks going at the same time, 2 receivers. So there's a lot of throwing going on. And Brady will take the first rep with Julio, with Mike Evans, with Scotty Miller, anybody who's what I would consider a starter. And then, as we go through all the different linebacker or wide receivers, he's going to, when it's kind of his turn to step up, he'll step back, Trask will step up and take that rep. So he is, without question, I think, managing his throws in this preseason, in this as best as I can tell. And people have been talking about maybe, this going into this camp, they said, look, I want to get in there with the install the first 2 weeks, work with the guys, kind of get a feeling for how everything's going. And if we get to a point where I feel really, really good about it, i.e. the Dolphins practice where he shredded them, I'm going to step back for a couple of weeks, do some family stuff, and then I'll come back and join the team. And that all kind of jives with everything that's been said, except the outlier, which is still the Devin White comments of he's dealing with a personal problem. Bowles saying he's got something to, quote, handle. Devin White saying we're praying for him. So all those things suggest that there might be an issue of some type of personal issue. That being said, another thing the guys Ira brought up on that podcast was, I think it was Lee DeKemper might have said this, that he has been maniacal about hiding his injuries. Remember the whole Super Bowl season, he hid the knee injury. Yeah. He had a thumb injury earlier in his career. Anytime he gets injured, and he was never on the injury list during the Super Bowl season, even though he had a strained MCL, I think it was.
Which I'm not even sure if that's even is that even like permitted in the NFL?
No,
to hide the injuries.
No,
I'm not even sure if that's even.
No,
right.
you're not. You're not supposed to. I'm sure the Bucs may have got fined for that. Quite frankly, kind of under the radar, but he's always been maniacal about hiding injuries. And if his elbow is hurting him, we saw this with Matthew Stafford. The first thing that's going to go for him is that elbow. When you talk about father time, that's the thing that's going to be, shoulder or elbow. And I think the elbow is one of those things that's really, really hard to manage. Pitchers go through this. A lot of, quarterbacks go through this. And once you get that pain in your elbow, I mean, at a whole nother level, I did this when I was playing flag football, when you're throwing thousands and thousands of passes and you get to the point where your arm is just so sore and your elbow is just so sore. You got it. And the only way to treat it is to rest it. So that's why I said last week, this 2 weeks off or whatever it's going to be for Brady could be a blessing in disguise, especially for his arm. He doesn't need it. He really doesn't need to be making this many throws at this point in training camp. And whatever the issue is, I really do think in the long run, this is going to help him. It's going to help his arm.
Yeah, I mean, if it's an injury, it's an injury. I mean, like we said, I don't think it really impacts the Bucs from the standpoint of, Kyle Trask getting more reps with more established guys. I mean, he was in there yesterday with a lot of lesser guys, and the fact that he looked good with them was a good step up. I want to see him throwing to some – I know Blaine Gabbert's going to get a lot of the ones, whatever, but I hope that they can kind of mix in Trask a little bit, because we already know it's not like he's competing with Gabbert for the number 2 spot. Mm-hmm. It's just that this is he's got 2 weeks now left to prove to the Bucs that he's the guy for next year, right? So I want to see him in practice throwing to Mike Evans. I want to see him throwing to Julio Jones. I want to see him going to Russell Gage, Chris Godwin when he gets back. I want to see him throwing to these kind of guys. And Tom Brady not being there, it does open that opportunity up for you.
Yeah. And I think when you talk about the Bucs saying we're not concerned at all, I think that all fits this type of narrative. I mean, if he quote retired, I still think that was a scheme to get to the Dolphins. I'm convinced of that. But regardless, he has been, very secretive about these injuries. And this is something that just naturally happens to somebody his age. And I know he's he's beaten father time to this point, but this will be the first sign that he's having a little bit of an issue from an age standpoint. And just the wear and tear on that elbow. And if you were going to look at and pre-plan this beforehand, knowing that this was going to be an issue, this is exactly what you would do, in my estimation. You would go through all the controlled practices you could. You'd keep him out of games. You take a huge break in the middle of training camp and then come back and work up to the first part of the season. That's what you would do, and that's exactly what they're doing. This is pre-planned. If you want to go take some time with your family and that, some way helps alleviate those pressures, why not? You don't need to be here. you're prepping for Tennessee. It's meaningless work for him. And you'll have plenty of time to get back and get ready for the season opener. So to me, when you look at all those things, that's what's going on. I think more than anything else. And then if you ask, well, is that going to be a problem during the season? I think it's something you can really manage. It's something you can really manage. You can't predict how sore his elbow is going to be, but this is the best way to alleviate that. This is without question the best way to alleviate it. So, all right, now with that as a backdrop, let's go visit in with Todd Bowles. What are we going to start with here?
We'll get his impressions on Kyle Trask. We'll always start with the quarterbacks here. So
sounds good.
Here's him talking about Kyle Trask's kind of overall performance in this game.
It's a lot about the development, what he's learned, and seeing what we have. You know, we hadn't seen him under pressure. We hadn't seen him get knocked down and throw an incomplete pass and get up. We hadn't seen how he comes back from an interception. We hadn't seen him throw a touchdown in a preseason game to date other than practice. So it was more about what kind of moxie he had on the field, what kind of control he had on the field, whether he would panic in situations, whether he would do the right thing. And he passed a lot of those tests. So he'll get more of it next week. You know, I can't say it'll be 80, 75 or whatever the case may be, but he'll play a lot, and the development's important for him. He didn't get as many snaps last year. So we really want to see what we have. I kind of know what Blaine can do. I know what Griff can do. I want to see what Kyle can do. So, you know, he's going to get some time. And he's made some mistakes in the game, obviously, first time out, but I thought he handled a lot of situations well. So we'll try to get some more of that next week.
Yeah, I think that's basically what we said. And I think that the coaches are seeing the same thing. And there's no way to simulate in practice. This is a joint practices. You get a little bit of it. But that you got to see him under the lights, especially this guy. He's a gamer. And he's proven it. And I think, you know, for Kyle, because this is the best thing that could possibly happen to Kyle Trask. And I think, you know, as we just mentioned, the whole Brady scenario, that's a big part of it. You know, that, hey, you know, guys, guess what? Brady's not here. Well, what do we do? Do you want to see what your team does too? How do you react? Well, you know, I don't think there's been any panic. They feel like these guys can play. And Kyle went out and showed it. Is this a different bite?
Yeah.
Another one on Kyle Trask.
Well, he was calm and he was in control of the offense, and that was great to see. He got put in a lot of situations that we practice that are hard to do in the game in your first time playing that amount of time, and I thought he handled it well. So his composure and his poise, not panicking in 2 minutes, especially when he got to 3rd and 22 and we had 1st and 20 backed up. He kind of led the team down. He took the throws he needed to take, and he made some good throws. But his calmness and his poise and understanding the situation was very good.
There you go. I mean, that's something that they wanted to see, and under the lights of a very active Raymond James Stadium, by the way. Nice crowd for a preseason game.
Yeah.
Beautiful. The new seats made the whole thing look really different to the eye.
Yeah,
very. And I think there's a lot of people that bought season tickets in the 300 level that love to stand down on that area.
Yeah,
they're going to be very disappointed because there's no more standing room on that side, and the pirate ship area is going to get even more crowded.
Yeah, there was more people for that preseason game than there probably was an average of a regular season game just 3-4 short years ago.
Absolutely,
it was rocking that stadium.
Knowing Brady wasn't even going to play.
Exactly, that's pretty telling right there. But you know about Kyle Trask too. The other thing that I think Todd Bowles kind of said it there, or he just reminded me of his name. They didn't waste any reps on Ryan Griffin. I was glad to see that because last year in the preseason, they gave Ryan Griffin more playing time than they did Kyle Trask. And honestly, when you think about that, does that make any sense for a guy that they drafted in the 2nd round last year to have Ryan Griffin play more?
No.
It doesn't make any sense at all, does it?
Zero.
So I like yesterday on Saturday.
Ryan Griffin is there just to be there.
Ryan Griffin
take reps in practice away from Brady.
Well, Ryan Griffin's there to rack up years to get his pension.
He's doing a great job.
And he's doing a damn good job on it. I think this is year 8 of Ryan Griffin on the Bucs, which is crazy.
He made almost $10 million.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah, but I'm glad. I hate it for Ryan. I know he wants to probably get out there.
Right.
But I'm glad for the Bucs' sake that they let Kyle Trask have the reins for 3/4 of that game. And I'm assuming it's probably going to be the same way against Tennessee.
I think they'll give probably Gabbert maybe 3, maybe the whole first quarter.
Yeah.
But they might want to see Trask run with the ones too. You know what's left of the ones.
I'm excited to see more. That's it's a good thing. I was kind of nervous going into that game about what I'm going to see out of Kyle Trask. I'm kind of excited to see more now.
Yeah, I wish I could go see those practices in Tennessee, but he's going to get a lot of good reps, and this is exactly what he needs. They need to find out what the future is here, and if this guy is an NFL quarterback. If not, they're going to have to go find somebody. Not to say, look, Blaine Gabbert's what, 31? I think he's 31.
I think maybe 31, 32, or 33.
Yes,
one of those three.
somewhere in there. I think he deserves a shot to start.
I don't. His time has come and gone.
We will talk about that next year when that pops up. We'll see what the options are, because there may be some better options. All right, here's Todd Bowles talking about the offensive line and what he thought of the interior, especially. We know who the tackles are going to be, but what did Hainsey do and the rest of the guys?
I thought Leverett did a good job going in. I looked at the offensive line. Hainsey did some good things. I thought Woods at right tackle made some strides. He's a big man. He did some good things pushing the pile, and when Gedeke got in there, he did a decent job. He can play a little lower, but he did a decent job.
All right. Did we read much into who was the left guard, who was the right guard last night, going with Leverett there at left and Stinney at right?
No, we're looking at them both. We're looking at them both. Both of them did a half-decent job. Both of them got things to work on. So for the first game out, for those guys starting playing together, I thought they did a good job.
Yeah, that wasn't a ringing endorsement of either one. Bowles, I don't think is going to be very critical in public of guys, maybe as much as Arians was. Just different. Not one's better than the other, just different styles. I don't think either one of them played very well. And that may be something that the Bucs are looking at, and they may go find somebody, go get somebody. All right, we will take a quick break. When we come back, J.C. Allen's going to join us from the Pewter Report. We'll get his thoughts on the preseason game number 1 and where the Bucs go from here. Stay with us. The world economy is in chaos, and mortgage rates are going to go higher in the next few months. Meanwhile, home values are up 24% in some neighborhoods of Tampa Bay. Do not miss this opportunity to refinance your home, get some much-needed cash to handle skyrocketing inflation, and fill up your car. Contact Scott Fitzgerald at American Mortgage Services. Even if you've recently refinanced, Scott can make the deal work because he charges no lender fees like the big boys do. He will also shop your loan around to dozens of lenders and get the best rates and terms. Let them compete for your business. The big banks charge huge lending fees. Customer service is simply a phone number with endless wait times. Scott is local and will personally take your call. Here's his cell phone number. Tell him JP said you could call. 813-294-7595. Scott's done over 3,000 loans, including many coaches and athletes. He will answer your calls and concerns and give you workable strategies to be smart with your money. Reduce your payments. It's not just what you make, it's what you keep. 813-294-7595 or email him at scott@amstampa.com. Military veterans, are you struggling with alcoholism or substance abuse? Is it taking a toll on your relationships and your work life? Are you having trouble focusing? Constantly anxious? Well, you may not be surprised to know that your fellow military vets have your six. Heroes Mile is a new concept in rehabilitation clinics. Veterans helping veterans. To accept most major insurance. At Heroes Mile Rehabilitation Center, we have your six. Go to heroesmile.com or call 888-VET-NOW-2. That's heroesmile.com or call 888-VET-NOW-2.
Coming back at you. Now, more with JP on FanStream Sports. It's only just begun.
All right, welcome back to the JP Peterson Show here at our new digs, our new studio here at CP Communications. Hey, we want to also welcome in a new sponsor, Emerging Investigations, Tampa Bay's premier investigation agency. If you suspect your spouse is cheating or you're involved in a divorce and your spouse might be hiding money, or you got an ex-employee or current employee with suspicious behavior or a criminal matter that you need help with, if you need information you can count on, using the professionals at Emerging Investigations is a slam dunk. They are a licensed, insured private investigation agency, family-owned, And Emerging is your ideal resource to secure evidence and validation, allowing you to make informed decisions in life's biggest matters. Led by industry executive Brian D'Antonio, Emerging possesses the experience and resources to get those needed results. Emerging Investigations maintains an excellent reputation as a premier investigation agency. They are known for getting results. You're not just hiring a PI, but an organized, dedicated team using state-of-the-art technology. Their proven investigative methods produce crucial information that are used in criminal cases, insurance fraud, personal injury claims, and divorce. So if you're a local attorney or an insurance agency and some of your concerned neighbors as well, they're all using Emerging Investigations. So go to their website, emerginginv.com. That's emerginginv.com, or call 813-291-FACT. That's 813-291-FACT, or go to emerginginv.com. So welcome aboard. We're looking forward to having them on the show and giving us some great stories as well about some of their investigations, which I've already heard. They're fun. All right, I want to welcome in J.C. Allen from the Pewter Report. We have him on here. He's covering the Bucs out at every practice and, of course, the preseason game. What's up, J.C.? How are you?
I'm doing great, man. How are you doing today?
Fantastic. Just your overall thoughts on what you saw on Saturday night.
Yeah, there's some ups and downs. It's a preseason game. You don't have a lot of the starters in there, so you're getting a lot of these young guys some reps. But overall, even with the loss, I thought there was a lot of good work that was done situational-wise. At the end of the game, Kyle Trask being able to get them in a position to potentially win the game. I thought the offensive line, some of those newer guys vying for that left guard spot, and Nick Leverett and Robert Hainsey holding down the center spot. I think they both looked really good. I was impressed by, obviously, Tyler Johnson's performance, but also Cam Gill and Anthony Nelson. There's been a lot of talk about that outside linebacker room. Do they need to add a veteran for depth? Do they feel comfortable with just those four guys? And I think they answer the question that even in a limited time against backups, that those guys can bring it. With both of them have a sack and a quarterback hit. So there's a lot to improve on, obviously. But again, preseason game one, for the younger guys, you're getting the jitters out. It's your first time on the field since college. It's NFL competition. Everyone's a little bit faster, stronger, tougher. But when the lights came on, you saw some of the guys really turn it up. Guys like Cade Otton, guys like Cole Keefe, Jared Stearns, and also Kalen Geiger. So there's a lot to be encouraged by. And there was a lot that, they'll need to work on and tune up, and they'll get that opportunity this week, not only in practice themselves, which starts today, but when they go against Tennessee in joint practices.
JC, I think the way I watch preseason games is to see, is there anybody out here, because obviously the starters aren't playing, that can help this team this year? Like, what can I see? Is there something that one guy does that really well that could be, make him a role for playing this year, making an impact? With that in mind, who do you think showed you something where you could say, okay, that guy's going to contribute this year?
I think there's a few guys, especially at wide receiver. There's a lot of guys, and even Coach Bull said this. There's some guys that can play. The problem is the wide receiver room is so logged up with the Fantastic Four there, and the other guys trying to win spots. And Jalen Darden obviously impressed, and Tyler Johnson impressed. Both of them, having pretty big games. So, there's guys who I think that they're going to have to try to sneak on the practice squad, but might get picked up elsewhere. So the wide receiver room, definitely, there's some guys that can play that I think could contribute, but it's just a tough scenario with how many wide receivers. But I was impressed with Cade Otton and Cole Keefe, the young tight ends that they drafted in the 4th and 6th rounds, respectively. Cade Otton really kind of, I was one of the believers that I knew he was a good blocker, but coming in at 245, I think, a year with adding some muscle on would kind of do him better. But he showed really well technique out there blocking. I was very impressed with him. Cole Keefe, we saw him line up as fullback, like the forgotten position. The Bucs haven't used one of those guys left as Vita Vea in some time. And he plowed the way for Keyshawn Vaughn's touchdown run behind Robert Hainsey, and he had a really nice pancake block. If you haven't seen it, we got a article up with a video up on Pewter Report. So definitely check that out. So those are the guys, they're using them in different scenarios. How can they contribute in some sort of way? And I think Coach Keith right now is making a stance to say, hey, we might need to keep 4 tight ends on the roster. And the vice versa is that, where do you trim the other spots? You maybe not have 7 wide receivers. So on the defensive side, there wasn't as much that stood out to me. for guys trying to make it. I think Akunle Fatukasi. Jeez, that's a tough one to pronounce.
Very nice. Very impressive.
I think he showed off a little bit too as that backup linebacker role, especially when Grant Stewart went out. Finished with the most tackles on the team, almost had an interception. And he's not the most athletic guy, but he knows how to play. He can play. You can tell that he's playing fast and knows the playbook, and that might be a guy to watch that really challenges Grant Stewart for that fourth linebacker spot and special team spot. So a couple guys who kind of jumped out at the page at me.
And back to the offensive side, obviously Tyler Johnson, we kind of touched on in the first segment, and you did as well there. Had a great game there on Saturday night. Scotty Miller laid a goose egg in across the board, I believe. I think he just had the one target. And I thought Scotty Miller coming into the season was probably the fifth guy. I thought that everybody else was vying to get that spot from him because I believe in his talent. But is there a scenario where if in the preseason, he could really, if he honestly is at risk of losing his roster spot to a Tyler Johnson or a Jalen Darden? Because I thought he honestly was a lot coming into this.
He's looked really good in camp. He's been stacking practices, showing his versatility, not just as a receiver, but as a runner on special teams as well. He did have that one target that it was an iffy ball. Could he have caught that? Could have been thrown better. The defender kind of, interfere a little bit with him. Yes, and then an unseen play, and that's part of the things too is the unseen plays that you don't see. He was wide open on that Jalen Darden touchdown.
Yep.
He would have scored, So we're looking at him potentially having, 2 targets at 60-something yards and a touchdown, or perhaps 2 if he just gets that ball maybe thrown a little bit further where he can use his speed to get out in front of it and make that catch on his lone target. So, there was some good stuff that he put on film. The ball didn't come his way enough. I mean, Cyril Grayson was out there for 19 snaps, I believe, and he didn't get 1 target. So, that's the problem when you've got so many good wide receivers. And with Kyle Trask, still, that was his first time really getting his feet wet. He's played in some preseason games, but he had the show. It was him all after those 2 series by Gabbert. It was all him, and he's still going through decision making. Once you get to that second, and of course, if you guys watched towards the end of the game, that third string offensive line with a bunch of undrafted guys in there, it became check down city. You don't have a lot of time to get the ball out. So, and that's kind of not Scotty's thing is being able to, set him up and go deep. And, he's also shown the versatility to be able to do some stuff in the slot. So it's going to be interesting to see, where this wide receiver battle comes down, because based on training camp, what I've seen, I think Scotty makes the roster. Based on that game, You could say, he had some good plays. He had some bad plays. He wasn't targeted on certain plays. But the young guys are coming for him. Jared Stearns, Kalen Geiger, Devin Tompkins, they're coming. And they want those spots just as bad. And that's not even counting, Cyril Grayson. That's not counting how quickly Brashad Perriman comes back, if he's going to fight. It's some really difficult decisions that they're going to have to make. And I think getting some of those guys more reps is going to be key, including Scotty. And I think that's why we have roster cut downs tomorrow we've got to cut down from 90 to 85. I wouldn't be surprised to see, 1 or 2 wide receivers on that list that haven't really impressed, to kind of get those guys more reps and see what they can do.
JC Allen joining us here. You can find him at JC Allen, ALLEN NFL on Twitter. I think personally, Scotty he's good as gold. I mean, he's done too much in the NFL in real games, in crucial situations, playoffs, etc. He's too valuable with that. And remember, when he first started with Brady, before AB got here, he was Brady's favorite target. So I don't think Scotty's going anywhere unless somebody comes to get him, for a trade and with something that the Bucs need, which leads me to my next question. I think they're going to be in the market for a versatile interior offensive lineman. It's somewhere down the line. I don't think you can go into this year with nobody behind Robert Hainsey that has real experience. Leverett and Stinney, I don't think distinguished themselves in game 1, although Stinney has played well in real games, and you put more stock into that. My question for you is, do you think that that's what they're looking for, an experienced interior offensive lineman? I think they should be, quite frankly.
I think every team is looking for an experienced
that's true.
interior offensive lineman. That's the problem, right? And you've already traded a future draft pick in your 4th rounder to move up and get Zion McCollum. So, the cabinet is kind of bare. Now, they should be getting a 4th or 5th round pick back for Jordan Whitehead signing with the Jets and potentially a 7th rounder for O.J. Howard
Right.
Signing with the Bills. But still, Jason Light has really not been one to trade his own players, or usually kind of trade for players.
Right.
It's kind of not been his MO. I mean, there's been instances where it's happened, but I don't know. I think they're comfortable with what they've seen from Leverett and Hainsey to go into the season. I think there's still that glimmer of hope that Ryan Jensen's available. If they're going to target offensive line, I think tackle would probably be a better spot to look at. You have Josh Wells, who, is the veteran in the room, and he's done adequate when he's been called upon. You got Fred Johnson, who started at right tackle. They got Brandon Walton. Those guys started at left and right tackle, respectively. But I think if you want to get younger at the position, if you want a guy who can play both sides and maybe replace a Josh Wells, I think maybe that's where they might look.
Okay.
The problem is what are they going to trade? Player for player trades, they happen, but not often, especially with Jason in his history. So, and then who are you trading? Is it a Tyler Johnson? Are you trading a Scotty Miller? Are you trading? Because I think obviously the most valuable assets and the deepest they are on the roster is that wide receiver. So it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out. They have some tough decisions, whether that's trades or cuts, and then what are they getting back for it will be interesting to watch as well.
All right, good stuff, JC. We got Doug Wechter coming up next, so we're going to bail on you for right now. But quick question: are you guys going up to Tennessee?
Yeah, we'll have Scott, and Scott will be up in Tennessee. Clip, awesome. Photographer, and Josh Capo too. He's out of Atlanta, but he's making the trek up to Tennessee. Nice. So he'll get some good stuff up there as well.
I wanted to promo that. Pewter Report will be all over it up in Tennessee. Great stuff, JC. Thanks, partner. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Right, JC Allen right there. Yeah, I'll be at practice this afternoon with him. Pewter Report guys are all over practice each and every day. And they'll be up in Tennessee. So we'll have them on the show to get a full report. All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, as mentioned, Doug Wechter will join us from Valley Sports Sun. Rasmussen with the near perfecto yesterday. We'll get Doug's take on that. Stay with us. The health professionals at Bay Area Modern Medical Center want you to know it's time to commit to a new healthy lifestyle. It's literally a matter of life and death. 42% of Americans are considered obese, and being obese made you 3 times more likely to be hospitalized by COVID. So getting in shape is not just about looking better, it's about living much longer. At Bay Area Modern Medical Center, they take a very different approach to primary care. It's personalized, preventative medicine. Christopher Lugo and his experienced staff are proactive in looking at your issues before they become a problem, encouraging a healthy lifestyle with proper diet, supplements, and exercise to optimize your active lifestyle, building up your immune system, not destroying it with poor nutrition and bad habits. So call for an appointment, maybe change your primary care, and get on a journey back to full health and a happy life. Call 844-977-3477 or go to BAMMC.com. Tell them JP sent you for priority scheduling. 844-977-3477 or go to BAMMC.com. They've got it all. The Bay charities doing great works for domestic violence victims. Great stuff. So we always say support those local companies that support your local community. None better than the Gold and Diamond Source, 3800 Almerton Road, always online at the goldanddiamondsource.com.
Coming back at you. Now, more with JP on FanStream Sports. It's only just begun.
All right, welcome back to the JP Peterson Show, brought to you by, in our first hour, Emerging Investigations. They get results. Find them at emerginginv.com. All right, we want to investigate what exactly was going on yesterday with Drew Rasmussen and that near perfecto. So who better to call on than the great Doug Wechter, joining us from the Big Apple, where it's the Rays and the Yankees tonight. What's up, partner? How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great, dude. How are you?
Outstanding. I didn't think I'd be watching much Rays baseball this weekend, but then I'm like, what's going on here? I see it on Twitter, and I got to tune in. And man, I don't think I've seen a guy with more command of the breaking stuff, everything, as Rasmussen had yesterday. He was phenomenal. What were your thoughts on what you saw yesterday?
Dude, it was unbelievable. It was actually the first game I took my family to just to hang out and watch us, just being able to sit there as a fan, enjoy it. So I wasn't even going to break it down. I wasn't thinking about doing any of that. And then all of a sudden I'm looking up in like the fourth and fifth inning. My kids are like, "Hey, Dad, I don't think anybody's reached base." I'm like, what? And so I'm looking at it, and, Rasmussen, look, this guy, when he's on, he is on point, and it's always about command with him, right? His tempo is always fantastic. He gets the ball, doesn't wait around. Defense loves playing behind him because he's not real deliberate. He takes the ball, jumps on the mound, and throws a ton of strikes. The problem is if he's missing inside the strike zone, he can be a little bit hittable at times, right? Because he throws so many strikes, guys are able to time it up pretty well. But if he's commanding inside the strike zone, meaning if he's putting the ball exactly where he wants to inside that strike zone, I mean, the dude can be unhittable. And we saw that Drew Rasmussen yesterday. Went out there. I think you're dead on point when you're talking about his breaking stuff, landing in the zone, doing whatever he wants. Swing and miss was on yesterday. Sometimes he struggles a little bit with the swing and miss, but it was absolutely on point yesterday, getting a lot of first pitch strikes. He did basically everything right. And I'll tell you what, man, I'm in there. I'm standing in the ninth inning. We're all standing, cheering. We're hoping that this guy can finish it off. And unfortunately, Mateo jumped on that first pitch, was able to keep it fair. But, man, what an outing. That was the best outing I've seen all year by any Rays pitcher.
Any pitcher at all this year.
And let's not forget, if you go back to the start prior, I mean, they should call it a perfect game because he's had 34 straight hitters I think he's faced without giving up a hit.
Oh, that's right.
Because remember, he had
three perfect.
So I think they should call it a perfect game regardless, but whatever. You talk about the job he's done lately, though. I mean, you look at the rotation. McClanahan obviously is having to battle through some things right now, and he did the game prior. Corey Kluber, same thing. I mean, just how big is it to have, I guess, Rasmussen kind of step up and be the guy right now while other guys are going through things? And, of course, middle of a 17-game stretch with no off day, and you save the bullpen for a whole day going into a big series against the Yankees.
Well, I think that's the biggest part of it, right? You're talking about a guy who went out there and, typically he's going 5 innings, maybe into the 6th inning, maybe. But a lot of times the Rays like to get him out, even if it's a low pitch count. They like to get him out second time through the order and get the bullpen in there. And it's worked out well for him this year. But yesterday, I mean, he just didn't give Cash a chance to go out and even warm anybody up. I didn't see anybody touch the ball in the bullpen until the 9th inning.
Thank
so,
God.
to be able to save the bullpen, I think is probably, one of the most important things about that start, because this bullpen has been used a ton, right? And now you're going into a game with New York that you're going to utilize the bullpen all of game 1, right? Jalen Beeks is going out there for the start, but who knows how long he'll be out there. And so you're going to have to use a lot of guys behind him. So for Rasmussen to be able to go out, pick up 8 1/3 innings, and, only have to call on Jason Adam to finish that game off, I mean, that was as good as you can get outside of a perfect game or a no-hitter.
So let me ask you this. If his pitch count was like it should have been up in the 90s going into the 9th, and he has a perfecto, is there any way, not even Kevin Cash, not even the Rays would pull him in that situation? Come on.
Dude, you can't pull somebody with a perfect game going into the 9th, man. I don't know. There's no way I would see that happening. I mean, if he had 120, 130 pitches, maybe you pull him. But, I mean, this dude was so dialed in.
Okay.
It was so much fun to watch. And I'll tell you what, man, pace of play, I don't know what that game came in at, but it was probably close to 2.5 hours. I mean, somewhere in there. It was fantastic.
Cash is like, if the phone rings from upstairs, do not answer it. Because sorry.
I don't think anybody was answering the phone. I don't think the bullpen was answering the phone. They were just letting him roll.
Yeah. If there's a hotline, he'd be like, do not answer that phone, or just pick it up and go, I'm sorry, you've reached the wrong number. We're not taking, nobody's making this decision. No way. We're letting them go. But that was what let me ask you this about Rasmussen. We've seen, I mean, this is just his really first full year as a starter. I mean, what does this portend for this young man? How good can he be? I might want to be a prisoner of the moment here, but we've seen a lot from him this year, and a lot of it's been really, really good. And he's just a baby as far as a starter goes, right?
Right. He has a ton of potential. People don't realize, and it's easy to not realize this, but he's been a bullpen guy. Right. He was a bullpen guy over with Milwaukee, and since they brought him over, they always eyeballed him as a starter. The Rays saw his arm, saw his potential. They want him in the rotation. They have to tinker. They had to tinker with some of the off speed, try to create a little bit more swing and miss, but they've done that, right? They got this nice slider right now that gets a lot higher whiff rate on it. He's got a curveball at times. I mean, he's got the pitches in the arsenal to do it because, let's face it, the guy bumps 95 to 98 miles an hour on average, and he's always in the strike zone. So really what they wanted to do was put him in the rotation, start creating some, a little bit more swing and miss, and let him go. And I'll tell you what, man, if you look at the team record, not just his record, but the team record throughout his career with Tampa Bay, the chances of the Rays winning when he takes the mound are very, very high. He just puts the Rays in a very good spot every time he takes the ball. And when he's coming out of the game, typically the Rays are in a position to win. So, Drew Rasmussen is a guy that they really like. And for good reason. I mean, look, we all saw what he did yesterday, but really over the course of this entire season, he's been very, very consistent. And, another thing is he stays healthy. He takes the ball every 5 days. So a lot of things to like about him, and I know the Rays are very high on him.
All right, last one about the perfecto or near perfecto yesterday. So you obviously were at the game, so you didn't see the broadcast, but this. When there's something going on with a perfect or a no-hitter in the Rays booth, Dwayne is like, he won't even come close to saying no-hitter or perfect game. They'll say everything but they won't come close to actually uttering those words. Like, what have you been in the booth for one of those, or what? Do you know what the dictate is?
Dude,
is this coming from Dwayne? Because he's an old
I'll
school
tell you
guy.
What the rule is. The rule is whatever Dwayne, whatever he wants to do, you're going to do, because that man is one of the best of all time. So
exactly.
If wherever he wants to lead you, that's where you're going to go. Look, I know that you want to dance around it. Shoot, man, I'm in the stands, and me and my kids are like, hey, we can't move. We're talking. I mean, I just know from being in the stands, me and my kids are like, hey, you can't get up. You can't go get a drink. Like, we got to stay in our seats right now. I'm definitely one of those people who, you don't mention what's going on. And when we were in the dugout, you always give that guy, plenty of room. Yeah. Don't sit by him. Let him, just stay focused.
And he likes to talk. Yeah, he was talking with everybody. Rasmussen said, no, I'm a talker. I got to go talk to Shane. So he was just working the room. He didn't care.
Right. Yeah. Well, some guys are like that, right? Yeah. Some guys want to talk. They don't want to sit down and think about what's going on. They want to talk. They want to, they don't want to change what they typically
That's what
do.
I'd be doing, yeah.
It's but yeah, I'm with you, man. You never say the words, and you never utter the phrase until a ball is put in play and somebody's on first base.
And switching over to the offensive side of things here, there's some guys that are all of a sudden swinging the bat pretty well. Like a Frankie Mejia has been great since he came back. A Randy Arozarena always mashing against the Orioles. He did that. It was a great moment yesterday when he hit that homer. Brandon Lau, same thing. And I'm looking in the future here, and this week, it looks like we're getting Manuel Margot back, if I'm not mistaken, at the end of the week maybe. You have Harold Ramirez now in AAA. Wander's going out to a AAA assignment. This lineup, when they get those three guys in there, it looks like it's going to be pretty deadly 1 through 9. It's what the Rays have been waiting for. I mean, where do you think their lineup kind of shakes up here as we get, I think we have 48 games left in the season. I mean, how good can the lineup be when they get those guys back?
Well, listen, they can't come back soon enough, right? I mean, look, the Rays have been doing a good job of maintaining and keeping pace, but, to be without Wander Franco, let's just start with him. I mean, look, this is the top hitter in the order, right? He's the best offensive player all around. Maybe not power. You got Brandon Lau, who is your best power hitter, and Brandon Lau, who came back and he's been hitting the ball great. But Wander Franco, they identify him as their best offensive weapon overall, and to not have him for the majority of the season, that's hard. You take the best hitter out of any lineup, and it's going to be really rough. So to be able to get him back alone is going to be huge. But Margot is probably going to be back before him. Margot was huge. He was a big part of this offense, when he went down. So it's going to be great to see him roaming the outfield and back in the lineup. Harold Ramirez, you got those three guys coming back, and it's essentially this is a new lineup, right? And so they just have more options. They've been winning without these guys, so you just add them back in, and it's going to be that much better. It's just they need to get back quickly because I'll tell you what, man, that's September month.
Ooh.
Boy, that is a hard schedule. If you check it out, I mean, you're talking about Houston, New York. The Orioles are in there. The Orioles are obviously very tough now. There's a lot of teams. Toronto is in there. It's going to be a very tough month of September. So you're hoping to build up some wins here early to give yourself a little bit of buffer going in that last month of the season.
Hey, that Rosarena home run, I mean, Randy certainly pimped it as a pitcher.
Yeah.
As a pitcher, did you like that? I mean, I love it. I'm sorry. I love guys. I mean, he may have taken it a little overboard there, but whatever. He knew it was gone.
Listen,
it was a big home run.
Dude, it's definitely a different game from when I played,
Yes,
right?
yes.
I mean, if that would have happened 15 years ago, probably wouldn't have gone over too well. I'll just say that. But you know what? I mean, everybody's doing it now. It's just the way that the game's evolved and changed. And, you know, it was an emotional hit for Randy.
Yeah.
And, you know, he really was feeling it. And I'll tell you what, man, he's been hitting the ball well.
Yes,
he's
he
been
has.
really,
he's
really
down there.
starting to come around. And, you know, he's starting to hit the breaking ball a lot better than he ever has. I think he's hitting over 300 here in the last month on the breaking ball alone.
Yeah,
so when you know he's hitting the breaking ball, that's when he's seeing it really well at the plate. And that's when he's the most complete hitter he can be. So, yeah, he's looking very sharp. And, boy, he was feeling it after that bomb yesterday.
He was. Hey, so now we got the Yankees, and you know, to be they're struggling certainly, but this pitching matchups don't necessarily favor us. I mean, they're not going to see Shane McClanahan or Rasmussen tonight. Is Beeks, and I guess lots of bullpen against Cole, Nestor Cortez tomorrow. Obviously, a huge series. Give me a little preview of this one since you're up there in the Bronx.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, you're going up against still one of the best teams in the league, right? They're struggling mightily here lately. They just lost last night. They played Boston. They're coming in late, you know, into a new series against the Rays, who are actually playing pretty well right now. I think it'll be a really good series. I think it's going to come down to, you know, the Rays pitching keeping this lineup in the park. You know, New York leads all of Major League Baseball with, I think, like 194 home runs. And the next closest is like 170 something. I mean, their game is to go out there and hit the ball out of the park. And so when you're looking at New York and Yankee Stadium, I mean, you put the ball in the air, it's gone, right? And so if the Rays pitchers can go out there and just limit the home run ball, I think we have a good chance of taking this series, because New York is definitely struggling. They are not 100% right now. They don't have Giancarlo Stanton. They do have their aces lined up, though, right? They got Garrett Cole going today, Nestor Cortez going tomorrow. So, you know, it'll be a good series overall. But, again, I think it comes down to the Rays pitchers, you know, being able to keep this big lineup in the park.
All right, Doug, we'll be watching tonight. What do we got? Pregame 6:30 tonight. You guys are doing it live from up there?
No, actually, I'm filling in for BA for this series. So I'll be up here for the next 3 games, then BA will be back. So
Gotcha.
I'm going to enjoy some New York pizza and probably gain about 6 pounds while I'm up here.
Attaboy. All right, my friend. Awesome stuff as always. Really appreciate your time. We'll be watching tonight.
Okay, brother.
All right, thanks. Appreciate it. The great Doug Wechter right there. Yeah, that's good. I'm maybe we're watching some Rays baseball tonight. Very excited.
I'm always excited when we're playing the Yankees, man.
Be a full house. They're struggling.
They are struggling,
Yeah.
and their fans are about ready to jump off the cliff here. I mean, it's crazy. They're in first place. I still think they're like the third or fourth best, or like the third or second or third best team in the league record-wise.
Yeah, I think the Astros, Dodgers, Yankees. I think it still is.
And their fans have no problem just coming out and saying, "No, we're not a good baseball team. We suck. We're not doing anything this year. Cashman, fire Boone. He didn't do enough at the deadline, even though we were the second most active team at the deadline."
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah, I think Garrett Cole and Beeks tonight, then Nestor Cortez. I mean, there's, you know, the Rays we're feeling good because got a nice series win over the Orioles. And by the way, big win in terms of the tiebreaker, because they win the season series 10-9.
No more 163.
Yeah, so that tiebreaker is that could really come into play. So that's how big that win was for the Rays. But you know, you're still not catching the Yankees.
No,
not catching the Yankees. But all these games are huge now. Every game doesn't matter who you play.
They've played the Yankees so close this year.
Yeah,
they really have. And that was when the Yankees were absolutely rolling. They're not rolling anymore.
It brings out the best in
Garrett
the
Cole
Rays.
hasn't been great. Nestor Cortez hasn't been as good as he was in the first half. I think
we've been okay against Cole.
We've been okay against. We've held our own against Cole.
Yeah.
So I'm not worried about that.
I'm worried more about Cortez. Honestly, he seems to
a little bit. I need Kluber to give a good outing too, because
Kluber coming up and he's been
starting to set in.
He's been a little iffy lately. So it would be a good time for him to come up with a big performance and be at his best. But yes, if the Rays can win this series, that's going to be huge for them. They need to keep this momentum going. Just counting the days until these other guys get back. And again, there's no guarantee. When these guys come back, it's instant offense. It doesn't work that way. It takes time for guys to get back into the timing where everybody else is up to full speed. And these guys, it's not like they've been off for 2 weeks. They've been off for months.
Yeah.
So it's, I hate that we keep saying, we got to wait till this guy. We have to say that because it's the only chance the Rays have of doing anything in the postseason or even making the postseason is to have these guys come back and add something. But, to expect them to be really, really good is not the usual.
Yeah, I mean, but, when these injuries first started happening, I think we all kind of said, the Rays just need to keep their head above water. If you go 500 and you can kind of stay in the playoff area, then that's fine.
And they've done that.
And they've done that. I mean, you can go all the way back to the first Margot injury. The Rays were 8 games over 500, I believe, when Margot first got injured way back when. Okay? They're, 7 games over now? So they've essentially played 500 baseball, I think, through the most part over these injuries. And I think that's all you can ask for, honestly. And I even mentioned it to Doug there. There's some guys who are hitting the ball well in this lineup now, like a Frankie Mejia. I mean, he's been mashing it. I mean, the Rays didn't go out and get a catcher, but Frankie Mejia has been great for them since he's come back. Yu Chang, I think he's hitting over 300 since he got here.
Yeah.
Jose Siri Jose Siri, when he does get on base, he is electric. There's no doubt about that, and good in the field. Taylor Walls is starting to hit the ball better lately. I mean, there's guys that are coming around here, and I think Manuel Margot coming back at least this weekend, it's going to help. It's going to help. We'll see how long it takes them to get going, but I mean, I'm a lot more optimistic about the Rays now than I was probably a few weeks ago.
Yeah. All right, we'll take a quick break. When we come back, 11:15, Patrick Burnham's going to join us, and we're going to talk some FSU football. They had a big scrimmage this weekend. Their first game is coming up in 12 days, so not long away. But something else happened to the Rays that is going to piss off a lot of fans. You may not know about this, but we'll get to that. USF names a starter, so a lot of other stories we got to get to. Crazy finish to the PGA Tour yesterday. That's all coming up next. The health professionals at Bay Area Modern Medical Center want you to know it's time to commit to a new healthy lifestyle. It's literally a matter of life and death. 42% of Americans are considered obese, and being obese made you 3 times more likely to be hospitalized by COVID. So getting in shape is not just about looking better, it's about living much longer. At Bay Area Modern Medical Center, they take a very different approach to primary care. It's personalized, preventative medicine. Christopher Lugo and his experienced staff are proactive in looking at your issues before they become a problem, encouraging a healthy lifestyle with proper diet, supplements, and exercise to optimize your active lifestyle, building up your immune system, not destroying it with poor nutrition and bad habits. So call for an appointment, maybe change your primary care, and get on a journey back to full health and a happy life. Call 844-977-3477 or go to BAMMC.com. Tell them JP sent you for priority scheduling. 844-977-3477 or go to BAMMC.com. Italiano Insurance has been serving and working in our community for over 60 years, and it's not just about insuring all the pieces of your life. Italiano is as much a part of Tampa Bay as the Cuban sandwich, Gasparilla, and our Bucs, Lightning, and Rays. They're also active supporters of great charities like the Humane Society, Metropolitan Ministries, and local pediatric cancer centers. Hey, we all need insurance, so do business with a local company with a commitment to our community. Don't call some 1-800 number. Call Italiano and be greeted by one of your neighbors. That's 813-877-7799 or ItalianoInsurance.com. Named the Small Business of the Year by the Tampa Chamber. 813-877-7799. Let's go.
Right now, back to the show with JP on FanStream Sports.
All right, welcome back to the JP Peterson Show, brought to you by our new sponsor, Emerging Investigations. If you need a private investigation firm, they are the folks that you need to call, and you can reach them at emergeinv.com. And let me give you that phone number as well as I get to that. It's 813-291-FACT. That's 3228. 813-291-FACT, 3228. So if you are suspicious of your spouse maybe cheating, or you're involved in maybe a criminal matter, or you need any type of information on someone for anything, missing persons is something they do as well. Emerging Investigations, family owned and operated. Great folks over there. Brian D'Antonio is their lead executive, and we've got a great segment coming up with Rachel. We're going to do it a little bit later on. She's one of the investigators as well, and is going to tell us a few stories about how they have uncovered a few things here and there. If you've ever watched the show Cheaters, this is even better. So yeah, if you need anything in that realm, if you're a local attorney and you need some investigations done, it's Emerging Investigations. You can find them at emerginginv.com, emerginginv.com. We were just having an interesting conversation about what's going on. You follow this a lot better than I do in the Premier League, but Manchester United lost to who? Brentford? Is that even a
Brentford?
Brentford. I've never even heard of them as a Premier League team.
They just came back up to the Premier League last year. They're one of the preseason favorites to be relegated once more this year.
Right.
They have not beaten Manchester United since 1938, and they beat them on Saturday 4-0.
4-0?
4-0.
That's like, in football terms, like 45-0.
Yeah, it doesn't get worse than that. This is rock bottom.
And they would be like the New York Jets of the NFL. Imagine the Bucs getting beat by 45-0 by the Jets.
Yeah, I'd say that's probably a good accurate one there.
Wow,
it's bad. And I only brought it up because I was just scrolling through Twitter here and I see the Glazers trending, of course, and that's why. And they play Liverpool this weekend, by the way, United, who have lost both games to open up the season. It's already been bad. New manager, everything. They lost both games to open up the season, have not scored a goal yet in both games.
And Ronaldo's still playing for them?
Ronaldo's still playing. He wants to leave. You can see why he wants to leave, because he doesn't want to waste his last years with this crap.
Yeah.
And now they play Liverpool at home. Liverpool is the best team in the entire league. They're going to kill United. It's at Old Trafford. The fans want to organize a walkout, and it's going to be ugly. So,
man.
Like I said, everybody loves the Glazers here, but over there, cannot say the same.
Well, I wonder if they're even considering selling the team. I mean, it's such a valuable property.
Oh, I told you, all the club legends are fed up with it. They are urging them to sell. So, we shall see.
They're giving certainly the Bucs everything they need and to compete over and above what other clubs are doing in terms of salaries that they're pushing. When you're pushing salaries down the line, you have to come up with more money, especially more cash to do that.
Yeah.
And they have just given the Bucs a blank check. So in terms of
in
terms of what they're doing here, we're thrilled. Absolutely thrilled. They added the new seats, which at an expense to them, obviously. And I mean, they're going to make money on it. It's an investment. I get it, but they're doing everything that they need to do. Their community outreach here, led by Brian Ford, has been nothing short of spectacular. I mean, they have become absolute perfect owners in my mind here.
Isn't it kind of odd though? Because like Tom Brady and Cristiano Ronaldo, they're the same athlete basically. They're both on their last rides.
Yeah.
Isn't it crazy how they're giving Tom Brady everything and then some to go out? And in the other case, they've given that man nothing to the point where he's like, please let me leave.
Well, I think it's
so odd.
Is it the fact that they're not spending money, or they've just spent poorly?
Well, they've spent over $1 billion in the past 10 years in the transfer market.
That's a lot, right?
Well, it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
A lot of the players, they just have not brought in the right fits.
Right. So it's been more bad decisions than lack of resources.
The reason why Man United fans are mad is they take dividends out of the club. They've taken more money out of the club for their personal being than actually put back into the club. All the money they take out of it, they don't put towards buying the team. They keep it for themselves. That is the bone that Manchester United fans have to
shareholders.
pick. Yes, and the people that they have running the club underneath them are all their buddies, and they're not exactly people who know soccer. And that's a big problem as well. So the recruitment is bad. It's all bad there. But it's just interesting because they're both athletes that are on the same level of where they at in their careers. One of them's getting everything and then some, and everything he wants, he gets. The other one is telling you, I want to leave. This situation sucks, and they've done nothing to make it right. It's interesting.
Well, all we know is it's certainly benefiting the Bucs. So as far as we know, that's all we really care about.
I heard there's another owner though that made a decision yesterday, assuming it was his decision.
Who's that?
I'm not going to say his name. You can say his name.
Oh, Stu.
Yeah.
Oh, this is awful. This is awful. So our boy Cowbell Max.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know if you go to and I'll be honest with you, I'm not a huge fan of like cowbells ringing all the time, if it was a lot of them. But there's one dude with a Cowbell Max. I mean, it's not like it's become almost the soundtrack of the Trop. Am I wrong?
I was at the game. I told you like a week ago.
Yeah. There
There was literally, I know it, a banner that flashed up. It said more cowbell.
Yeah. Stu used to
By the
say
way.
more cowbell. That used to be his
Yes.
mantra, more cowbell. And that's where it came from the owner. So this came from our friend Rays Fangio. Head of Rays baseball security told Cowbell Max he can't bring in cowbells anymore next season. What? Well, I mean, I'm not going to the mat for this, but I'm just saying, like this is Stu's thing. It was his idea, cowbell. And Cowbell Max it's like the soundtrack of the Trop. If there's anything
To the point where all the local news stations have done stories and features on this guy.
I mean, and now they're throwing this guy out too. I tweeted this out. I don't know of a team and an owner that has been more hostile to their fans than this guy. And like he's not treated that way in this market. I can't believe it. Like he gets the let's find out where he goes to buy his groceries, treatment from the Times, before the season. Oh, what's your favorite song? He's like in no way treated as a villain, which he should be. And this is not personal, but I mean, the way he runs the team, like the sign last year for the playoffs that he was going to do, the whole sister city idea, defrauding your partners, not putting the money back into the team. Like taking $500 million out, allegedly, according to the lawsuit, and not putting it back into the team, and not negotiating in good faith with St. Petersburg or Tampa, keeping billions of dollars of development locked up just because he wants to get the most money. You can't find a worse owner and doing s like this and selling off the Brett Phillips for cash. I mean, we could go on and on and on. And now this, I mean, have you seen an organization that's more hostile to their fans? I haven't. The ticket prices, we talk about that. On and on and on we could go. And he's still treated like, oh, where's you getting your milkshakes these days? What are you doing with the team? How about we ask those questions? How about we ask the questions about all of those things that I just said? Can we get those questions? No, I don't think we're going to. Anytime soon. All right, quick break. When we come back, we're going to chat with Patrick Burnham from the Osceola, who's been covering Florida State football this preseason. He's got all the notes and numbers coming up. We'll find out what's going on with the offensive line, all that good stuff when we come back. Stay with us. The world economy is in chaos, and mortgage rates are going to go higher in the next few months. Meanwhile, home values are up 24% in some neighborhoods of Tampa Bay. Do not miss this opportunity to refinance your home, get some much-needed cash to handle skyrocketing inflation, and fill up your car. Contact Scott Fitzgerald at American Mortgage Services. Even if you've recently refinanced, Scott can make the deal work because he charges no lender fees like the big boys do. He will also shop your loan around to dozens of lenders and get the best rates and terms. Let them compete for your business. The big banks charge huge lending fees. Customer service is simply a phone number with endless wait times. Scott is local and will personally take your call. Here's his cell phone number. Tell him JP said you could call. 813-294-7595. Scott's done over 3,000 loans, including many coaches and athletes. He will answer your calls and concerns and give you workable strategies to be smart with your money. Reduce your payments. It's not just what you make, it's what you keep. 813-294-7595 or email him at scott@amstampa.com. Military veterans, are you struggling with alcoholism or substance abuse? Is it taking a toll on your relationships and your work life? Are you having trouble focusing? Constantly anxious? Well, you may not be surprised to know that your fellow military vets have your six. Heroes Mile is a new concept in rehabilitation clinics, veterans helping veterans. At Heroes Mile, we staff our rehab center with fellow veterans who can understand what you're going through. Our mission is to help you heal from issues that only your fellow veterans can truly understand. Located just outside of DeLand, we offer a full range of inpatient and outpatient programs dealing with substance abuse, post-traumatic stress, and military sexual trauma. We choose to serve veterans because we know how complex these issues are. You could choose to fight the battle alone or win the war together. We are the
at defylava.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's rock. This is FanStream Sports with JP.
All right, welcome back to the JP Peterson Show, brought to you by our new sponsor, Emerging Investigations, Tampa Bay's finest private investigation agency. If you suspect your spouse of cheating or you need some criminal work done, insurance fraud is something they do a lot of work for. If you're one of those local attorneys looking for an investigator, Emerging Investigations, you can find them at emerginginv.com or 813-291-FACT. 813-291-FACT. Just give them a call, free consultation, and they'll let you know what they can do for you. All right, let's bring in our good friend Patrick Burnham from the Osceola, who is, I believe, part of the Rivals Network now. You guys joining forces with the Rivals Network?
Yeah, we joined them on August 1st.
Nice.
And, of course, we've gone out and hired Charles Fishbein, the owner of Elite Scouting Services down in South Florida.
Wow.
He's going to be helping with our recruiting. As our, obviously as an independent site, we were not networked for recruiting, so we'll cover a lot more recruiting with the partnership with Rivals. So
Nice. Nice.
Charles is a very knowledgeable guy, and looking forward to having him on the Osceola team.
Cool. Well, FSU fans like myself are very interested in what's happening this preseason. The Noles have been busy at work. They got first game, 11, 12 days away with Duquesne, which I'll be coming up for that one. Yeah. So just your thoughts. You've been observing and seeing what's going on early on. Big year for Mike Norvell and the Noles. What are your overall thoughts on what you've seen?
Well, the first thing that stood out to me, particularly early in camp, and has stood out to me as they've gone through their first 14 days of camp, compared to the previous 3 seasons that I've been covering football for the Osceola, there's a different energy feel to this team. You can't really put your finger on it, but when we all have personal relationships where we don't have to hear something, you feel something, right?
Right.
And we've been around this program for 4 years, and they certainly seem to carry themselves with more confidence than they have in the recent past. And, I think you do see them starting to take on the personality of their head coach, focused, confident, and hard-working football team. In fact, one of the things that really stood out to me is, we didn't get a chance to see Saturday scrimmage. The press is not allowed. We can go to all the other practices. But, Mike Norvell had several things that stood out to me about the team itself, not specific players. They had not watched film yet. But, the team that is tough, that had great energy and had pretty good energy throughout camp, but certainly at the scrimmage on Saturday. A team that loves to compete. We have seen a very competitive fall camp. A team that cares about each other. They do seem to get along very well, and he likes the mindset of this team. And listen, I think it's a deeper team, which provides more competition in practice, which makes you a better football player, and obviously, hopefully, at the end of the day, for better results on the scoreboards on Saturday than we've seen the last 4 or 5 years at Florida State. So yes, I've been very impressed with what we've seen so far.
Well, culture change was the number one thing that needed to be done with Mike Norvell, and it certainly a lot of it couldn't happen during COVID just because of those special circumstances. So I think this third year, really his second year, and it's about that time where you start seeing culture change take hold, and that's kind of sounds like what you're talking about here, and that's a must. You got to do it. It's got to be done.
Yeah. He's virtually flipped the roster since he first got here, and listen, they've done well in the transfer portal. They're probably hitting more often than they're not, based on what we've seen so far. But yeah, certainly, listen, I think it's going to be a wide open year in the ACC for the most part. Clemson's probably, they're certainly the highest ranked team. Can they live up to the hype? Can NC State be a front runner? And I think after those 2 teams, anything can happen on any given day. I think it's going to be a topsy-turvy year in the ACC, and I think it's going to be a fun year to watch Florida State football.
You talk about the transfers, and they brought in 3 big ones there at receiver: Johnny Wilson, Micah Pittman, and Deuce Spann. Thus far, do any of them kind of look the part? I mean, that's obviously a position that FSU needed to upgrade at. I've heard great things about Johnny Wilson. Which one seems like he's going to step right in and be a contributor?
Well, I think that Wilson and Pittman will certainly contribute right away. I mean, obviously they have gotten a ton of reps. Johnny Wilson had out of the 2 weeks they've been in camp, he certainly had his best week of practice this past week. looked very sharp. He is a matchup nightmare, whether it's in the red zone or out in the middle of the field. He's 6'6", 6'7". He does a great job of extending out for the ball. Doesn't just rely on his height advantage. He high points the ball well. But certainly a guy that has gotten better each and every practice, particularly last week. I think they want all the guys to be more consistent. I think sometimes I think we make too much out of one drop. We see one thing, we take it as a totality of what we see. But, Pittman has gotten more consistent. It's a guy that's going to be a playmaker, not only in the receiving game, but obviously in kickoff and punt return. And then, Deuce is only his second year playing wide receiver. He was a guy that was a quarterback in high school and obviously from your guys' area. Mm-hmm. And a guy that, some teams wanted to sign as quarterback, but he went to Illinois and they converted him over to receiver. So this is only his second year. And he does, you can certainly see the potential there in being a guy that can stretch the field, got great speed, and a guy that's going to help in the return game as well. So, so far, you got to be, I think if you're a Florida State fan, you're excited about what you see out of that transfer group at wide receiver right now. Listen, they've had some guys that have started to come along that Malik McClain has stood out. Kentron Portier had a great catch and the physical part of Thursday's practice over in Jacksonville. So you're starting to see some guys make some moves and, naturally get better as they get more time in Mike's system.
Patrick Burnham joining us here from the Osceola up in Tallahassee covering Florida State football. Been a lot of talk on the defensive side of Albany transfer Jared Verse making play after play in practice. And also the freshman Sam McCall, who was a 5-star safety that came in as well. Can those two guys impact this defense this year?
Yeah, there's no doubt Jared Verse is going to impact this defense. Now, is he Jermaine Johnson? No, he's not exactly like Jermaine, but does he have the potential to be a dominating defensive end? I think he does. Now he's a little bit, he's not as far in his development as a football player, but I would think based on what we've seen so far, as much as I've tried to temper expectations and tell myself, hey, listen, he's not going to be Jermaine, which I think you've got to do. I think he's probably exceeded what I thought I would see. Now, I'm not going to say he's going to be an All-American, but I think he's got a chance to be a heck of a football player for Florida State sooner rather than later.
Well, I also saw where Michael Pittman, who played with a guy by the name of Justin Herbert when he was at Oregon, comparing Jordan Travis to him. I'm like, okay, all right, you played with him, not me. But
Justin Herbert is one of the most talented football players in the entire free world. I'm not sure I'm going to compare anybody to him. But certainly, listen, Jordan is playing with more confidence and with more consistency than what we've seen. He's in his third year in Mike's offense. He is surrounded by better people. You would think that of the last 3 years that he is in line to have his best year.
Okay, I'll take that. And I love him as a leader and a gamer. And I think originally,
listen, he's fun to watch play. He plays with reckless abandon, and as he has gone, as Florida State's offense. But I guess my point was
slow down.
Justin Herbert's pretty damn good football player.
The other thing,
one of the best in the free world.
Yes.
The other thing too that I noticed, so FSU had their first scrimmage, I believe, last Saturday. And Julian Armello, who was the big recruit at left tackle or offensive tackle that came in, I saw that he was running with the first team offense. And obviously as a true freshman, a little bit, I guess he seems like he's gaining the approval from Mike Norvell. Some of the players, I think Fabian Lovett said he's the best freshman offensive lineman that he's seen come into this program while he's been here, I think was the quote. Is there a real chance that as a true freshman, he's going to be manning that side of the field when we get to game day here?
I think Julian's going to have a role on the football team. I think he's going to be a guy. He does not look like your typical freshman. He does not play like your typical. He's not built like your typical freshman offensive lineman. He's a little bit more physically advanced. He has tremendous athleticism and ability. He certainly had his fair share of freshman moments this camp, but certainly he is a guy that has positioned himself to play as a true freshman. There's no doubt about that. Now, whether he starts, still 2 weeks of camp to go, but he is certainly an athletic guy and certainly a guy who from time to time has held his own. But as Coach Norvell has, he does have freshman moments, and those things will happen in season as well as in practice. But he's a guy that's going to be a part of the 2 deep right now. He's certainly factoring into that based on what we've seen. As you referenced, he got reps with the first team in that first scrimmage. So he did not talk a lot about individuals coming out of the second scrimmage. We hope to get a little bit of that from Coach Norvell the next time he's available to the media, which will probably be tomorrow post practice. But listen, if you're a Florida State fan, you got to be really excited about not only Julian Armella, but Quayshawn Schaap and Kanaya Charlton and Jalen Early. I mean, they really look like they've done a great job of evaluating those kids coming out of high school. And certainly if those guys stay healthy and in the program, I think Florida State's future at offensive line is looking very bright.
Well, I tell you what, Patrick, I know people down here in Tampa, since there's so many players up there now from this area, we mentioned a bunch of them. Can't wait to see this season get started. I'll be heading to New Orleans with my son. We're going there we used to travel every year to an FSU game, so we're getting that tradition going again. Can't wait to see them go up against LSU. So my question to you is, I think it's a 3-point spread. Can they be competitive against LSU? I think they can. I mean, from what we saw last year, this team has a hell of a lot more fight in it than they've had in recent years. They went toe-to-toe with Clemson. They beat Miami last year, and they're more talented this year than they were last year. I mean, I really think that my expectations are at least 7 wins for this team. Is that too high? Starting with LSU, by the way.
No, I think that's a very realistic expectation of this team. For all the reasons we've talked about.
Yeah.
It's a deeper roster. The ACC seems to be a little bit more wide open. This team carries itself a little bit different. Listen, first games are hard to call, right? And let's face it, we're not going to learn a lot about Florida State against Duquesne. The game where we start to learn about Florida State is going to be the LSU game, where LSU is going to learn about itself is against Florida State, because they will not play the game. And those first games are, you're rolling the dice, really. I put it to you this way. I think that the first 30 minutes of that game are going to be very important. I think it's a 50-50 game right now. I don't, listen, obviously LSU's favored, but I don't know how much the bookmakers know going into the first game of the season. So, listen, I think it's going to be a fascinating year to watch. But yes, I think that your expectations of 7 wins are not too lofty. And, I always say I take a +or -2 on all that kind of stuff and go from there. But yes, I think, listen, I'm excited about this football season. And I think the general sense of things is this program is, you can definitively see that it's starting to trend in the right direction.
All right, partner, tell everybody where they can get all the information from the Osceola, promote all your great content.
Well, go to floridastate.rivals.com. We've got a lot of great written and video content. We just taped our Seminole Sidelines video cast / podcast, and that'll be up later today, where we talk about the first 2 weeks of camp, and specifically the last week of camp and our takeaways from what the coaching staff had to say post scrimmage. And so we hope you give us a try, and look forward to getting back on the Tampa airwaves and talk to all our friends down there, and JP, and of course was down there for 7 years at USF. So it's always good to talk to you guys.
Yeah, brother. We're really looking forward to having you on this year and a very successful season. You're the best. You guys cover it the best, so we want to be with you. Thanks, man. I really appreciate you coming on.
All right, JP. Y'all have a great afternoon.
Thanks. And I'm jacked up for Florida State football season.
I didn't know we were 12 days away. Hasn't processed to me yet.
Yes.
Because we're still like 26 or something like that for NFL.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go up for the Duquesne game too, just to soak it in a little bit.
Just for a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, why not?
I hope the atmosphere is great. I mean, it was great last year for the opener at Notre Dame.
Yeah,
I'll never forget.
Different.
I'll never forget that atmosphere.
Yeah, it was. That was a hell of a night. That comeback and everything. That was like old time FSU football again. The place was packed. There was drama. It was big plays everywhere. That was really
it's
fun.
The one
atmosphere.
You didn't mention when you talk about FSU fighting last year.
Yeah,
you remember
right.
that game too.
They came back from 18 back in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, there's a lot to be excited.
That was the
about
first sign that I was like, okay, this is way different. I mean, that the previous FSU teams were just quick.
They would have rolled over and
died. Oh my God, absolutely. So the culture has changed there. It seems like it's changed back to the old FSU days in terms of the culture. Now they got to get the talent in. Now they got to win football games and just start building it back. And that's why I think this year is so crucial. They can't go 5-7.
No.
Can't do it.
Then you have to start questioning the coach again.
Exactly. Then
you don't want to do that again.
I think 7 wins is the bottom line for me. Like, they should at least have 7 wins this year. And, if they can get to 8 and then, 9, I mean, now we're really talking about being ahead of schedule. So I'm cautiously optimistic. All right, we'll take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll talk a little bit more Buccaneers. We'll get into some of the other NFL notes from this past weekend. A lot of interesting happenings in preseason football games, and we'll get to that when we come back. Stay with us. Italiano Insurance has been serving and working in our community for over 60 years, and it's not just about insuring all the pieces of your life. Italiano is as much a part of Tampa Bay as the Cuban sandwich, Gasparilla, and our Bucs, Lightning, and Rays. They're also active supporters of great charities like the Humane Society, Metropolitan Ministries, and local pediatric cancer centers. Hey, we all need insurance, so do business with a local company with a commitment to our community. Don't call some 1-800 number. Call Italiano and be greeted by one of your neighbors. That's 813-877-7799 or ItalianoInsurance.com. Named the Small Business of the Year by the Tampa Chamber. 813-877-7799.
Hi, my name is Mike Warner, a Navy vet. I've had problems with addictions throughout the many decades. Something saved my life, and that is the Heroes Mile program.
Hi, I'm Bill Lennox, retired Lieutenant General, United States Army. If you have any challenges in alcohol, drug, if you have PTSD, MST, think about Heroes Mile.
Heroes Mile, a recovery center for veterans by veterans. Call 1-888-VET-NOW2 to learn more or visit heroesmile.com.
The world economy is in chaos, and mortgage rates are going to go higher in the next few months. Meanwhile, home values are up 24% in some neighborhoods of Tampa Bay. Do not miss this opportunity to refinance your home, get some much-needed cash to handle skyrocketing inflation, and fill up your car. Contact Scott Fitzgerald at American Mortgage Services. Even if you've recently refinanced, Scott can make the deal work because he charges no lender fees like the big boys do. He will also shop your loan around to dozens of lenders and get the best rates and terms. Let them compete for your business. The big banks charge huge lending fees. Customer service is simply a phone number with endless wait times. Scott is local and will personally take your call. Here's his cell phone number. Tell him JP said you could call. 813-294-7595. Scott's done over 3,000 loans, including many coaches and athletes. He will answer your calls and concerns and give you workable strategies to be smart with your money. Reduce your payments. It's not just what you make, it's what you keep. 813-294-7595 or email him at scott@amstampa.com. Military veterans, are you struggling with alcoholism or substance abuse? Is it taking a toll on your relationships and your work life? Are you having trouble focusing? Constantly anxious? Well, you may not be surprised to know that your fellow military vets have your six. Heroes Mile is a new concept in rehabilitation clinics, veterans helping veterans. At Heroes Mile, we staff our rehab center with fellow veterans who can understand what you're going through. Our mission is to help you heal from issues that only your fellow veterans can truly understand. Located just outside of DeLand, we offer a full range of inpatient and outpatient programs dealing with substance abuse, post-traumatic stress, and military sexual trauma. We choose to serve veterans because we know how complex these issues are. You could choose to fight the battle alone or win the war together. We are the community care provider with the VA and also accept most major insurance. At Heroes Mile Rehabilitation Center, we have your six. Go to heroesmile.com or call 888-VET-NOW2. That's heroesmile.com or call 888-VET-NOW2. The health professionals at Bay Area Modern Medical Center want you to know it's time to commit to a new healthy lifestyle. It's literally a matter of life and death. 42% of Americans are considered obese, and being obese made you 3 times more likely to be hospitalized by COVID. So getting in shape is not just about looking better, it's about living much longer. At Bay Area Modern Medical Center, they take a very different approach to primary care. It's personalized, preventative medicine. Christopher Lugo and his experienced staff are proactive in looking at your issues before they become a problem. encouraging a healthy lifestyle with proper diet, supplements, and exercise to optimize your active lifestyle, building up your immune system, not destroying it with poor nutrition and bad habits. So call for an appointment, maybe change your primary care, and get on a journey back to full health and a happy life. Call 844-977-3477 or go to BAMMC.com. Tell them JP sent you for priority scheduling. 844-977-3477 or go to BAMMC.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's rock. This is FanStream Sports with JP.
All right, welcome back to the JP Peterson Show, brought to you by Emerging Investigations, our newest sponsor. Really appreciate them jumping on board. If you're looking for a premier investigation agency, they are the ones to go to. You can find them at emerginginv.com, emerginginv.com, or call 813-291-FACT, 813-291-FACT, emerginginv.com. Great folks over there, so check them out. All right, I want to get to a couple other interesting stories going on. This one that just broke, and we even mentioned it earlier in the show. USF announced this morning that Jerry Bohannon will be their starter. He's the guy that transferred in from Baylor last year. Baylor the year before went 2-7, and Bohannon became their quarterback. And a new coach, right? And Aranda came in, and they go 12-2 the next year. He started the first 12 games before getting injured, then lost his starting gig. But now Timmy McClain has just announced that he's entering the transfer portal, right? You just saw that on Twitter. Who was the starter last year at USF, brought in, he played last year as a freshman. I think this is a really, really bad idea for, unless he's got some program that he's going to where they're going to, he's going to come in, he's got to learn a new offense. He's not going to start right away.
The quickest path, the easiest path for him to be a number 2, let alone a number 1 this season, is at USF. It's
and the quickest
else.
path for him to become a number 1 is at USF. He's one snap away.
He's one snap away.
Yeah.
It's not like anything he did wrong last year.
No.
I think Timmy McClain, and I get it, this is the tricky thing with the transfer portal. It's hard to tell a kid, who has 4 years, 5 years, whatever of eligibility, hey, I need you to stay here the entire time and wait it out, and then knowing that you're not going to play. I get all that. And the fact that he played as a true freshman last year on a team that very talented, to be honest, and he probably made look better than they were and got very close. And I'm sure he's going, man, I did all that, and now I'm just going to be the number 2 for this year. I get it, but listen, as we keep saying, Jeff Scott doesn't care about that. He's got to win football games.
That's right.
Because he's got to save his job.
Right. Yeah.
And Gary Bohannon won 10 games last year. End of story. That's how it goes. Gary Bohannon's a better football player than Timmy McClain. Entering the portal at this point, what good does that do?
It's when somebody comes in this portal situation and they're just more experienced and frankly better than you. You can't have a reactionary. I mean, I'm not sitting in his shoes. I mean, he's sitting there thinking, oh, look at Bohannon's got 2 years left of eligibility. I'm going to be wasting my time here. But the bottom line is guys get injured. And, we see this all over football. The guys just immediately transfer and go somewhere else. You got to start all over. And listen, I'm sure Jeff Scott told him a lot of things about, listen, you're my guy. We're not looking for anybody in the transfer portal. But when a guy like that becomes available, you have a responsibility to the team and the fan base and everywhere else to say, you know what, I got to look at this. And it doesn't make Jeff Scott a liar. It just makes, this is the world that we live in now, as kids can transfer anytime they want. And at some point, I think it's going to be unlimited. They're going to use it. And, maybe he has a situation, another team is talking to him and he's got a better situation. Whatever happens with Timmy McClain, I hope it works out. He's a great young man. We wish him the best. And if he's going into the transfer portal, I hope he goes somewhere and has great success. But for the USF program, it's a hit. There's no question it's a hit. Because if something does happen to Bohannon, you had this other guy who was, I think, going to be a really good football player. But I'm sure he believes in himself, and I'm sure he believes he should be a starter somewhere. And we'll see how it works out for him. But I don't know. I don't think it's the best move.
I don't think it's.
But I don't know. I don't know anything about his situation either. He may have something lined up that's much better for him. So.
We don't know, and we don't know when the timing is. I mean, it just got out today that Gary Bohannon was named the starter. Maybe he was named the starter a few days ago, and the news broke today, and so did the McClain news of entering the portal. I don't know. On the surface, it looks like a reactionary move. Yeah. Not even 2 hours after the announcement was made that Gary Bohannon's the starter. And I guess that I question, is this really the right thing to do? for Timmy McClain at this moment. I question the transfer portal. I can't believe that guys are still allowed to even enter the portal.
Yeah.
At this point, when we're 12 days away from the first games of the season, just doesn't make any sense to me. And again, with Timmy McClain, I mean, was Jeff Scott just going to say, hey, I'm not going to play you at all this year because Gary Bohannon's a starter? No. Timmy McClain is so versatile in what he does.
I would think that
they had a package for him.
I don't think there's any question about it. Plus the fact that, you have to, and this is a tough thing for these coaches these days. They've got to play a lot of politics with their quarterbacks and all players because of the transfer portal. And I'm sure that they told him, look, we're going to have a package for you that you're going to come in and play with the ones and be an impact player for our team this year. But I also know that they've also said that we want to get a starter named. We want to get them ready for the first game, which obviously is what, BYU, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a big game, by the way.
Yeah, BYU coming. I get confused with Utah going Florida first and BYU coming here. So yeah, it's a huge game, and to win that game, you can't go in with two quarterbacks. You just can't.
No.
It didn't work last year. It just doesn't work in general. You don't have enough practice time to get two guys ready. So I understand what Jeff's doing this, and this is definitely what's best for the team, but it sucks for Timmy. I ain't going to sit here and say it doesn't. It just sucks, but it's football, and anywhere you go, there's going to be competition for that starting spot. And again, I don't know what he has, set up wherever he's going, but
again, at this point, he's not going anywhere and even being a 2, in my opinion.
Well, and the thing is, everybody who's recruiting him now in the portal is telling him, probably telling him some untruths as well.
And I doubt he's going to get, and I don't know. I mean, the eligibility rules are so, I can't even make out what they even are anymore. They just
ever changing.
They go on a whim, but I have a hard time believing at this point they would even grant him eligibility for this year if he transferred now. So
yeah, I think he would. I know you can transfer one time without any restrictions whatsoever. So
it's late. I just don't.
Yeah, it's late.
I don't get it.
Yeah,
I don't get it.
I think he would be better served to stay at USF and then enter the portal after the year if it doesn't go his way.
I mean, who's USF's third quarterback? Is Kate Fortin still in the building?
I don't think so.
Who's the third guy? Because now I'm thinking about it. I mean,
it's the kid from Contravious Marsh from Miami, I believe. We
saw him a little last year.
Yeah. So
just for USF's sake, it's not good for them.
It's not good for USF without question. They're the biggest loser here. But I mean, the good news is you got a guy. You got a guy who's proven it at the big time level. So interesting. It's interesting to watch how it goes for Timmy. But I think just on the surface, and again, we don't know what his options are. No idea what his options are. But on the surface, I think he would be better served to sit here the whole year, see how it goes. And if Bohannon runs away with it and never doesn't get hurt, you never see the field. You have a better chance of going somewhere else and be the starter.
In the programs that be going after you, I think at the off season at least, you're going to have more eyes on you. I don't know how many people now are looking. Oh man, I got to get a quarterback.
Well, everybody else is set.
Everybody's already set. That's what I'm saying.
Set.
There might be a bigger team, maybe a Power 5 team that could be looking at you. That's not right now. So the timing of it's just really odd.
All right, so that's what's going on at USF. Switching gears to golf. This just came down. Cam Smith is pulled out of the BMW. And this is very interesting for many, many reasons. First of all, he's pulling out because of a supposed hip injury he's been dealing with. Watched him play this weekend. Didn't look like he was injured to me at all. Yeah. But he was, interestingly enough, given a 2-shot penalty after play on Saturday. And I'm trying to figure out exactly what happened, but this is from Bob Herrig. Golf's rulebook is a complex maze of information, often misunderstood, typically confusing, but the rock behind how the game is played, unlike other sports that tailor their own rules depending on how the level of play, the rules of golf supersede any tour, any organization. Blah, blah, blah. Cam Smith was 2 shots off the lead when he arrived at TPC Southwind on Sunday, but 4 strokes back when he headed to the first tee due to a penalty that occurred during the third round. Wasn't reviewed at the time, was noticed by a rules official who happened upon the rebroadcast later in the day, and then was assessed on Sunday morning. To be clear, Smith was in violation of Rule 14.7, and he acknowledged as much when meeting with Chief Referee Gary Young, but the timing was awkward and again leads to questions about how such penalties should be assessed. During the third round on Saturday, Smith found the water at the par 3 fourth hole with his tee shot. He took a drop, but it came to rest on the edge of the penalty area, the red line drawn to mark the area. Players required to take full relief from a penalty area Just as if you were taking relief from a cart path, no part of your feet can be on the path. But rules officials did not review it as a violation occurred. Okay, that seems really, really ticky-tack and didn't give him an advantage in any way, shape, or form. And the fact is, we all know Cam Smith is going to LIV Golf, going to Live Golf, and he's not announcing it until after the playoffs so he can play in the playoffs. And we had the incident with Scotty Scheffler, who, like, obviously walked in his line. And, you know, there's drama out there. They don't like these Live golfers out there. It's just the way it is. They feel like they're trampling on their tour, yeah, on their turf. So he's pulled out now. This is very ungolf-like on both for the PGA Tour, for everybody. This is not good in any way, shape, or form. Sorry.
No, and I'll say it again, by the way, in the FedEx Cup playoffs, the first of the 3 events this weekend, I think we said this maybe on Wednesday or Friday show, I can't remember, about the tour. It seems like every week there's a new star who comes about. And I know that Will Zalatoris is not a new name by any means, but it's a guy who's had a fantastic year, has come so close to winning.
Oh, my God. And pounding on the door.
And pounding on the door. He had to remember the playoff against Justin Thomas. What was that, the PGA? And now he gets the playoff yesterday against Sepp Straka, and he wins it. And you saw the joy on his face, the hug with his wife, the whole thing. That's the PGA Tour.
Yeah.
That was the PGA Tour in a nutshell right there yesterday.
Because it's a life changer on a PGA Tour when you get a win. And for Zalatoris, and this was unbelievable the way it happened. On 18, he makes 15-footer for par. Straka also had to come out of the woods or wherever he was. He makes par. He makes a 7-footer. They go to the 11th now, which is a par 3, and the most unbelievable thing ever happens. The ball hits in the penalty area right on the side of where the water is, and there's one of these rock walls, and it bounces literally like 6 times on top of the rocks and then settles in a little hole up against the turf. And I'm like, first of all, how does that ball stay out of the water? Like, that just doesn't happen. For a guy who's been knocking on the door, if that doesn't happen, he's out. And then Straka freaking hits it on the wall, and it bounces into the water. Like, he had the whole freaking green to the left. All you do is hit the green, and he wins the playoff. I mean, how was he even shooting at the pin? That's the stupidest thing I've ever seen in my life. But anyway, but he probably thought that it was that Zalatoris' ball was playable, and it clearly wasn't. It was it's set between the grass and the little rock wall, and it was kind of down in a hole. Yeah. And then Zalatoris looked at it for 5 minutes thinking he's going to play that shot. I'm like, dude, you got to be kidding me. There's no way you can play that shot. You can't get the club underneath the rocks to get to the ball. There's no way. So he went back to the drop area, which is the right decision, dialed it in for 92 yards. His caddy goes, yeah, hit it 90, 91, and it'll get to 92. The ball stops at 91, moves a yard forward, and I don't know how the hell they do that. And then he makes the putt for the win. I mean, unbelievable win for Zalatoris. And by the way, our man John Gerber, who comes on Wednesday and gives us picks, who did he have to win? Will Zalatoris. 40-1.
Literally money.
So there's $4,000 if you bet $100 there. Yeah, congratulations. I did not. I did not make my bets this week because I forgot.
I did not have the gravitas for that. Damn. I did not.
So anyway, great for Will Zalatoris. He gets the win. And for Cam Smith, this is it's ugly. It's ugly. And it's getting uglier.
Yeah,
it's not a good look for golf.
I don't like where this is heading. I don't like this with the heading. Even though I told you if Cam Smith really goes to Live, it's the first guy that will make me really go, damn, I want that guy on the tour.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I would disagree with you there. I think there's some other guys.
The tour's better with him. He's the best putter on tour.
Well, tour's better with Dustin Johnson and Brooks Koepka and Patrick Reed.
Yeah, I'm not begging for those guys to be back. I'm begging.
They're all big names. I without question, the tour's better with those guys.
Has it impacted your viewing experience not having those guys there?
Well, they don't play every week anyway. But just in general, not having guys that are that good and won majors, a lot of majors.
But I'm saying
it's not good for the tour. It's not good for golf.
They haven't been good in years. That's
my
opinion.
Koepka's been injured. I mean, and Johnson,
Johnson's he's older. DeChambeau's been injured. Patrick Reed is living off the glory of one great April at the Masters. I mean, it's called what it is.
Yeah, but I think golf is not better. It's worse.
Yes, I love having all of them on one tour, preferably. Yes.
The LIV Golf Tour is not.
But the PGA Tour, I think, still needs to alter some of its things to get out in front of this, because right now it's like they're kind of having to make up time right now.
Yeah, I think they've got to figure something out. But again, I don't look, I don't think that I just don't think the game of golf is better for it. I just don't think it is.
No,
it's not. All right. What else do we have to hit before we get out of here? Wrote down a couple of things. We didn't. You sent this to me. Kevin Kiermaier this weekend. Another thing we can put on the anti-Rays list, where he said, if I want to come back,
positive Rays thing to share,
but that was not positive because he was talking about, I don't know if I want to come back and play on real grass or play on this crap here he didn't say that, but I'm saying it at the Trop. But that just goes in to show you what we had Jason Romano on, one of the top agents in the game. And he said this to us on Friday. Free agents do not want to come play in the Trop because it's an awful playing surface. It's a terrible place to hit. And it's, another reason that we've needed a new stadium for a long, long time. So, and now, KK is talking about it as well, because that's probably what led to his hip surgery.
Yeah, it's likely. But like I said, I wish he would be back here, but I don't think there's any chance of that really happening for Mr. Kiermaier. And like he said there, I mean, he's really been the only one to make light about the turf, by the way. And of course, it's obviously going to be him because he's the one that has to deal with it. His entire career has been, injury riddled, unfortunately. So, yeah, I could kind of see where he may not even want to come back because of that. And it's more about his career more than anything else. My positive thing that I was going to tell you about the Rays was that obviously it was a great atmosphere in the Trop yesterday. I think we had close to 20,000. Whenever there's a perfect game brewing, everybody's on edge and everybody's excited. So were the people watching at home, because for all that talk about how the Rays don't have any fans, 73,000 households in the Tampa market were tuned in to the ninth inning yesterday.
That's a lot.
That's a lot of households. And think how many people are in those households.
Good ratings.
Watching the Rays. So the
and
ratings.
How many more people were watching at bars and restaurants
exactly.
too. Yeah.
So the ratings in this market are continuing to be through the roof. And yesterday was a great example of it.
All right. Well, we'll end this show on a tragic note. How about that?
That's great.
Because I had to talk about this. This happened over the weekend. And it kind of comes back to Tampa a little bit. But at a under-9 youth football game, a coach was murdered. The shooter suspected is Yaqub Talib, Aqib Talib's brother. At an under-9 football game, there was a brawl. You can see, I retweeted the video. You can see it. And within the brawl, Talib's brother allegedly pulled out a handgun and shot one of the coaches. And he is dead, murdered. And he, he's remembered as a great dad, a great football coach. I mean, one of the great guys in the community in Lancaster. And he's dead because of us. I mean, folks, it's just youth football, for God's sakes, under-9 youth football. And we're getting mad at coaches and referees. This is just insane. And by the way, the Talib situation, I mean, we remember him and his mom. His mom had brought out a gun and was shot at a guy. And Aqib Talib did too, way back in the day. I don't know how long ago, it was like 5-10 years. His mom was already in jail. So it's obviously, a family that's grown up thinking that, you can just go shoot people willy-nilly. And now this guy's dead, a football coach in an under-9 youth football game. I mean, folks, it's not that important. It's not that important. All you parents out there, I know you get mad at referees and what have you. It's freaking youth sports, for God's sakes. It's not that important to get in brawls and shoot people. We even have to say this now, but it's the world we live in. Just absolutely tragic and disgusting on so many levels. Parents, be better, for God's sakes. And and we're not going to shoot anybody, but just even getting mad at a ref or a coach, yelling and screaming and doing those things. It's not needed. Grow the F up. All right. Our thanks to our guest today, Patrick Burnham, who joined us today, JC Allen as well, and the great Doug Wechter. If you missed anything, head on back. Drop our app right onto your phone there, FanStream Sports. You can also follow us on Apple and Spotify and on YouTube as well. Subscribe on YouTube, and you'll watch the show each and every day and go back and watch it anytime you want. Have a great day, everybody. I'm out to practice.